It was just past 2 a.m. when the city slept under a blanket of silence, but three silhouettes moved like ghosts through the narrow service alley behind the National Reserve vault. Rain drizzled lightly, masking the soft thuds of their boots on the wet concrete. No alarms had gone off, no cameras saw them coming. That's how they planned it. Inside a black surveillance van parked 2 blocks away, a fourth man, more of a voice than a face, monitored the city's security grid in real time. His fingers flew across the keyboard, eyes scanning thermal maps and camera feeds. "You have 9 minutes," he said calmly into the earpiece, as if he were announcing the weather. "Then Sector C goes back online. You're ghosts until then." Adi, the planner, led the trio, smart, cold, calculating. He never blinked unless it was necessary. He'd studied the reserve's blueprint for over a year, worked security jobs just to learn their system inside out. This wasn't just a heist to him, it was art. Behind him followed Zane, the engineer, who had rewired more vaults in simulation than most technicians would in a lifetime. And bringing up the rear was Dev, the driver and muscle, equal parts steel and storm. The trio moved through a hidden underground access tunnel, a disused maintenance shaft from the old subway days, now sealed off and forgotten by most. Except Adi had found the blueprints in a 30-year-old municipal archive, buried under layers of bureaucracy. They'd spent 3 months digging through the rust and rubble to reopen it, unnoticed. At the end of the tunnel sat a steel-reinforced door, coated with a biometric lock, handprint, voice match, and a digital key. Zane knelt beside it like it was a sacred artifact. "Time me," he whispered, pulling out a custom-built device with a makeshift screen and a pulse scanner. As he worked, Dev kept watch, his hand resting on a silenced pistol, more out of habit than need. Within 2 minutes, the lock clicked. "Welcome, Mr. Patel," said the AI voice, one Zane had mimicked with hours of voice samples. The door swung open into a pristine, sterile corridor. 3 minutes down, 6 to go. They moved with the efficiency of surgeons. Adi disabled motion sensors with a pulse jammer Zane had created. Dev carried the thermal gloves and magnet hooks needed to bypass the pressure plates on the floor. Every move had been rehearsed dozens of times in a replica warehouse they'd built themselves in the countryside. Finally, they stood before the vault, a monstrous 10-ton circular door that could survive a missile strike, but they weren't here to fight it. They were here to unlock it. Adi inserted a tiny fiber optic camera into the side panel, feeding visuals to their hacker in the van. "Bypass in progress," the voice said. Click, clack, a sudden beep. 4 minutes left," said the voice. Then it happened. The lock disengaged. A hiss of pressure released as the vault slowly turned open. The trio stood frozen for just a heartbeat, awed by the mountain of gold stacked neatly on steel shelves, bars stamped, numbered, and glowing like sunlight. Dev exhaled. Beautiful. They moved quickly, loading bar after bar into carbon fiber cases designed to handle the weight. No time to admire, no time to second guess. Outside, the hacker gave one final warning. 1 minute until C sector comes back online. Exit now. They left as silently as they came, disappearing back into the tunnel with 500 kilograms of gold and no trace behind. By the time the city woke up, they were gone. No alarms, no broken doors, no sign of a robbery. It was, by every measure, the perfect job. The news broke at dawn. 500 kilograms of gold stolen from the National Reserve vault. No signs of forced entry, no suspects, no footage. It was the kind of headline that paralyzes governments and fuels global panic. Within an hour, Interpol issued red notices. Every airport, seaport, and border checkpoint lit up like a war zone. But by then, the 3 ghosts were already gone. Adi didn't look like a man who'd just pulled off the biggest heist in the country's history. Dressed in a business suit, carrying a briefcase filled with encrypted flash drives and forged exit stamps, he sat calmly in the first-class lounge of an international airport. His passport read, Rohan Khanna, financial consultant. A convincing one, too, down to the LinkedIn profile, work emails, and the fake company website that had existed for years. When the immigration officer scanned his documents, Adi smiled politely and said, "Busy quarter. Singapore's calling." The officer nodded, stamped the passport, and waved him through. Adi walked past security, boarded the flight, and vanished into the sky. Destination, Kuala Lumpur, with a stopover in Dubai. He wouldn't be traced. His digital footprint ended the moment he stepped on that plane. Zayn, on the other hand, took a different route. Quieter, dirtier, but safer. Dressed as a truck driver hauling industrial equipment, he crossed the border overland at dawn in a fake transport vehicle registered under a shell company in Nepal. Hidden beneath the floor panels were gold bars layered in lead casing to fool scanners, though most of the gold had already been airdropped offshore. At the checkpoint, the guards barely glanced at him. One asked about road conditions up north. Zayn replied with a bored shrug, passed over a forged invoice, and rolled on. Once across the border, he abandoned the truck, switched to a bike waiting in a hidden garage, and rode into the mountains toward a private airstrip where a light aircraft awaited, fueled and cleared for takeoff under a different name. Dev's escape was the riskiest and boldest. He didn't leave through airports or borders. He dove straight into the ocean. On the outskirts of the city, he met a contact at a rundown fishing dock. The man handed him a bag of clothes, a waterproof satchel, and a submersible scooter. Dev nodded, didn't say a word, and zipped himself into a black wetsuit. He piloted the scooter beneath radar level for 12 nautical miles to an unmarked freighter anchored in international waters. The crew didn't ask who he was. They only saw a man who paid in gold. By the time Coast Guard swept the region, the ship had already changed course and flags. Back in the city, the reserve was still in chaos. Investigators combed through servers, duct systems, and floor tiles for clues. CCTV footage yielded nothing, just 5 hours of mysteriously missing frames. "Inside job," someone whispered. "Must be military-level tech," another guessed. Every theory sounded plausible. Every answer only raised more questions. Interpol launched Operation Emberfall, pulling agents from 12 countries. Airport alerts lit up on 5 continents. Financial watchdogs traced suspicious cryptocurrency transactions, hoping for a crack. But the trio had planned for this too. They hadn't just vanished. They had erased themselves. Each of them followed the plan to perfection. Separate exits, fake names, no direct contact, and no phones. Their final rendezvous point was a remote villa somewhere along the Mediterranean coast. Untraceable, unregistered, bought years ago under a dead man's name. As the sun set over calm blue waters, Adi stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in hand. Zayn tinkered with a satellite phone, and Dev tossed a gold coin in the air, catching it with a grin. They'd done it. They were ghosts now, and the world was still looking in the wrong direction. The villa overlooked the sea like a forgotten castle, perched on a rocky cliff, wrapped in mist and pine trees, miles from the nearest village. To the outside world, it didn't exist. No address, no land records, and no neighbors to ask questions. It was paradise, silent, sunlit, and soaked in freedom. But even paradise can feel like a prison when 3 men with secrets live under the same roof. Adi took the top floor, converting a bedroom into a miniature war room, screens, encrypted laptops, burner phones, and satellite feeds. He checked the news obsessively, monitoring the search for them across continents. To him, this wasn't over. "The moment we relax is the moment we get caught," he warned. Zayn, more relaxed, spent his days tinkering with gadgets, creating fail-safe systems and automated security. He'd built motion detectors in the woods, disguised drones to scan the skies, even buried escape tunnels beneath the property. "We need to enjoy what we earned," he said, often playing loud music on the terrace, a drink in hand. Dev, on the other hand, began to change. The man once full of swagger and humor now walked the halls with a shadow over his face. He'd stare at the gold bars stacked in the cellar, each one a symbol of freedom and betrayal. He didn't say it out loud, but it gnawed at him. What if one of them decides 3 is too many? They had agreed to wait 6 months before touching the money. Let the dust settle, let the world forget. But time moves slowly when you have everything and nothing to do. One night, Adi noticed his encrypted laptop had been tampered with. Nothing was missing, but the login attempts told him enough. "Looking for something?" he asked the next morning over coffee, eyes fixed on Zane. Zane didn't flinch. "Just wanted to know how much longer we're going to live like prisoners." Dev watched silently, fists clenched. The air in the villa turned colder. Later that week, Zane caught Dev speaking on a satellite phone, one that wasn't part of the official setup. When confronted, Dev snapped. "It was just a voice. A girl I used to know. I didn't tell her anything." Adi exploded. "You used an unsecured line? You risked everything. For a conversation?" Dev slammed a glass into the wall. "Don't talk to me about risk. You've got our whole future locked in that laptop like you're the king of the world. Maybe I don't want to follow your plan anymore." That night, the three of them sat in silence at the long dining table. No one spoke. No one ate. Trust, once the foundation of their bond, now felt like a ticking bomb under their feet. Outside, the waves crashed gently against the rocks. The stars above shimmered, indifferent to the tension brewing below. Adi stayed up late again, pacing the halls. In the shadows, he watched Zane bury something in the woods. A phone? A key? He couldn't tell. The next morning, Dev was gone for 2 hours without explanation. When he returned, his clothes were damp and his bag was heavier than before. They all noticed. They all said nothing. 3 men, 1 villa, and half a ton of gold. They had escaped the world. But now they couldn't escape each other. And somewhere, deep in the silence, a question echoed in all their minds. How long before one of us breaks? It started with a blink, a signal spike, barely a second long, picked up by a satellite over the Mediterranean. An unsecured satellite phone had connected for exactly 7.2 seconds. That was all they needed. Interpol's cyber division flagged it instantly, coordinates traced back to a coastal region in southern Europe. Within hours, a task force was mobilized, elite operatives, drones, heat sensors, and unmarked vehicles. The hunt had officially crossed borders. Back at the villa, Adi stared at his laptop, frozen. A red blip had appeared on the corner of his private network, unauthorized data ping. He slammed the laptop shut. "Who used a line?" he barked. Zane looked up from the balcony, confused. Dev was sharpening a knife at the kitchen counter. "No one," Dev said slowly. "Why?" Adi didn't respond. He rushed to the cellar, pulled out a sealed case, and opened it. Inside were 3 emergency passports, a tracker jammer, burner phones, and cash. He grabbed everything and came back up. "We've been traced." Those 3 words sucked the air out of the room. Zane dropped his glass. Dev stood up, eyes narrowing. "How?" "I don't know. But they're coming. Maybe not now, maybe in hours, but they know." Within minutes, the villa transformed from a hideout into a war zone. Zane activated their emergency defense protocol. Cameras rotated, sensors beeped, lights dimmed. Dev began packing weapons, stuffing gold bars into duffel bags with military precision. Outside, the sound of distant choppers grew louder. "They're early," Zane muttered. "They're fast," Adi replied. The first drone buzzed overhead as they exited through the tunnel beneath the cellar, a narrow shaft they had dug months ago, leading deep into the forest. By the time boots hit the ground at the villa, the trio were already half a kilometer away, blending into the night. But the chase had begun. 12:47 a.m., Adi led them through the forest, his watch synced with motion sensors mapped earlier. Every turn calculated, every step counted. But behind them, dogs barked, radios crackled, lights danced between the trees. "They're flanking," Dev warned, sweat dripping from his brow. "North route," Adi ordered. "We reach the cliff, we jump." "Into the ocean?" Zane asked, wide-eyed. "You're insane. Do you want a cell or a coffin?" They ran. Branches slashed across their faces. Roots tripped them. A flare lit up the sky. a beam of red light piercing the darkness. "Move!" Dev shouted, firing a shot behind them, scattering the dogs. 1 a.m. The cliff appeared, jagged, steep, and towering above the roaring sea. Zane hesitated. "We won't survive that." Adi pulled out 3 parachute packs from a hidden cache in the rocks. "We don't jump, we glide. Wingsuits," Dev muttered. "Of course you packed wingsuits." A spotlight swept across the trees. Shouts echoed. Helicopter blades thundered above. No more time. One by one they leapt. The wind tore at their faces. The ocean glistened below. Bullets ripped through the air as spotlights chased their shadows. But the suits held. They soared across the night like silent falcons. A mile offshore, a small boat with no flag and no name waited in the black waves. They hit the water hard, gasping, swimming toward the vessel as searchlights scanned the cliffs behind them. They hauled themselves aboard, dripping, freezing, but alive. As the engines roared to life, Adi looked back one last time. The villa, the trees, the life they built, it was gone now, burned by a single mistake. "We're not safe anymore," he said grimly. Dev nodded. "Then we stopped running." Zane sat silently, shivering, and as the boat disappeared into the horizon, the chase wasn't over. It had only just begun. The sea was calm, too calm. The boat drifted under the cloak of fog, its engines cut to silence. Somewhere beyond the horizon lay their next safe house, a private island off the coast of Morocco. A place no one knew about, a place they could start again. But inside the cabin, the air was thick with suspicion. Adi sat at the table, drenched, silent. Zane leaned against the wall, cradling a bruised shoulder. Dev paced restlessly, soaked socks slapping against the wooden floor. No one had spoken since they boarded. Finally, Adi broke the silence. "Someone made that call." Zane's eyes narrowed. "We already said it wasn't us." "Someone lied," Adi said coldly. "We don't get traced by accident." Dev's jaw tightened. "You think one of us betrayed the others?" "I think someone almost got us killed," Adi replied. "And I want to know who." Zane threw up his hands. "You think I risked everything just to die in a forest? You've lost it." Adi pulled a waterproof pouch from his jacket and tossed it onto the table. Inside, a small GPS tracker blinking red. "I found this in the lining of Dev's bag." Dev froze. "What?" Zane whispered. "It wasn't mine," Dev growled. "I didn't put it there." "But you carried it," Adi said, "and someone planted it." Tension exploded. Dev lunged forward, but Zane got between them. "Stop! This is what they want. Us tearing each other apart." "Maybe that's the plan," Adi said, voice dark. "One man leaves with the gold." They all stared at each other. Friends once. Now, 3 strangers on a drifting boat with half a ton of gold and a growing shadow of doubt. Then Zane said something that changed everything. "What if the gold isn't real?" Both Adi and Dev turned. Zane stepped toward the hidden compartment and opened one of the black duffel bags. He pulled out a bar, scratched it with a utility knife. The golden layer flaked. Beneath it, tungsten. Adi's heart dropped. "No." Zane opened another bag. Same result. All the bars, every single one, were fakes. Dev stumbled back, stunned. "We stole 500 kilograms of metal?" "No," Adi whispered, shaking his head. "I tested every bar. They were real." Zane looked him dead in the eye. "You tested your share. What if the switch happened after we split the load?" Dev turned to Adi. "You were the one who repacked them." "I was protecting us," Zane's voice cracked. "Or protecting yourself." Adi's hand moved subtly toward his jacket, toward the gun, but Dev was faster. He pulled his weapon and aimed it squarely between Adi's eyes. "If you played us, if you set this whole thing up, you better talk now." Adi raised his hands. "Listen, the gold was real, but someone switched it after the heist. Someone who knew our plan. The tracker, the fakes, the ambush, it's all connected." Zane's voice was hollow. "Then we were never free. We were being watched." Used, a deep silence fell. The boat rocked gently. Somewhere out there, the real gold could be halfway across the world, or buried under the very villa they left behind. Adi looked at them both. We didn't steal the gold, we stole the decoy. Dev's gun lowered slowly. Zane whispered, "So, who has the real gold?" Adi answered with one chilling word. Mira, their old accomplice. The one who had backed out weeks before the job. The one who knew everything. As realization dawned, the fog outside lifted, revealing a speedboat in the distance, heading straight toward them. 3 figures. Armed. Zane turned pale. They found us. Adi clenched his fists. Dev cocked his gun. The past was catching up, and the real game was just beginning. Cut to black.